All right. Hi, my name is Gabrielle, and I am planning a northbound through hike of the Appalachian Trail in 2021. For anybody that doesn't know, the Appalachian Trail is a long distance trail that runs from Georgia to Maine. It passes through 14 states and it is 2,193.1 miles long. It is flagged by white blazes in its entirety. And a through hike, as defined by the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, is any hike of the trail in its entirety within a 12-month period. And that is independent of the direction that you choose to hike in, as well as the sequence in which you hike. So you could start in the middle, hike north, come back to the middle, hike south, or chop it up however you want. As long as you're hitting all the miles within 12 months, that would still be considered a through hike as defined by the ATC. So when I say I'm hiking northbound, this is what is the most common route, but that just means I'll be starting down in Georgia and making my way towards Maine. So now a little bit about me and why I decided to hike the trail. I actually read the book Wild a few years back, and this sounds so cliche or so silly, but that is the book that really introduced me to the world of through hiking. It's about a solo female hiker who hikes the Pacific Crest Trail. It's actually her memoir or her retelling of the experience. And after learning about through hiking, I thought, well, that's really cool. And I learned that there was the Appalachian Trail only 35 minutes from my New York City apartment. So it's actually really close, and there are parts of the Appalachian Trail that you can hike on and you can see the skyline of New York City. So when I learned that there was this trail really close by, I started researching, and I just very quickly, as I think a lot of people have, became obsessed with trying to understand how does somebody carry everything they need, survive out in the woods, like make a through hike happen, push themselves physically and mentally. And I just thought it was so interesting. So it didn't take long until I was spending tons of time in these Facebook groups about the Appalachian Trail and just watching tons of vlogs on YouTube, retellings of people's experience, and I loved it. I started talking about it all the time. I started researching the gear, then I started buying the gear, and eventually it got to a point where I was realized that I had put so much time, energy, and effort into learning that I really just felt like I had to do it. And this had become a pattern that I had gotten into, where I would just start, I would have an idea, I would think it was great, I would be full speed ahead, researching it, planning it. I would, know every detail. And then I just wouldn't follow through. Something would come up, it wouldn't be the perfect time, it wasn't quite perfect, and I would talk myself out of it, and I would just decide not to go. And I really didn't want the Appalachian Trail to be another example of this. And I felt like if I could prove to myself that I could do this trail, I could carry this mentality into other parts of my life. Just because you're not sure it's going to work out, or it's not perfect, or you have a lot of doubts, doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it. And so that's why I really want to get out there and want to, regardless of the outcome, regardless of how far I go, I just felt it was important to me to get out there and try this. So that's my main motivation and reason for wanting to go. And it's actually really scary for me to be saying this now and posting this publicly, because up until now I've told a handful of my closest friends who, were like, no, please don't go. We want you to stay. We're really, we're concerned about you, or we want to hang out, or whatever it is. So putting this out here is really, me saying to myself, I'm gonna give this a go. And I'm really gonna try to make this happen. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about my plans for hiking. So I had originally been planning to hike starting in May of 2020, and when the pandemic began and safety restrictions were put into place, it very quickly became clear that I was not going to be starting my through hike in 2020. And when I realized that, I kind of just put all planning to the side, because as I mentioned, right, I'd been spending a lot of time and energy thinking about this and not knowing when I was going to be able to go, whether that was going to be in 3 months or 1 year or 2 years, I really just didn't want to continue, to focus on that when I could be spending my time focusing on other areas. So in January and February, when I saw activity picking back up on social media, seeing that people would be out on trail, I got really excited because that social component of the trail is important for me and is a big draw of the Appalachian Trail specifically for me. Being out there as a female solo hiker, knowing that there will likely be a group of people that I can see every day or check in with every couple of days was really important to me. So it wasn't until about 3 weeks ago that I finally booked a ticket, set my plans in stone, and ever since, I've had that flight and had that actual start date, I've been, running against the clock to get everything ready to get down there, and I couldn't be more excited that this hike is actually going from something I researched and talked about to reality. I plan on starting my hike in mid-April. I'll be going down to Amicalola Falls, starting at the Arches and the Approach Trail. I'm not quite sure what my pace is going to look like. It's really important to me that I don't get injured and that I can stay out on the trail. But I do not have a concrete timeline that I'm sticking to. I do have some reasons that I will need to be off trail mid and late summer. But I didn't feel like, those 2 weekends that I need to be away from the trail were like reason enough to delay my trip. I think for anybody that is trying to make a through hike work, you realize it's never going to be the perfect time. And you either need to, make sacrifices, or if you're not willing to, just be okay with the fact that you're going to have to step away for a few days. And I think that's fine. I mean, for me, that's the right decision. I don't think there will ever be a year where I can say, bye world, I'm not going to show up again for 6 months. So just because it's not perfect or you're not sure how it's going to turn out, I think it's still worth a shot. And that's not a reason to delay your plans. So thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I'm impressed. I'm new to all of this, so thanks for bearing with me. I just wanted to close with a couple of notes about the channel itself and how I'll be using it throughout my hike. If you're wondering where the name for this page came from, it basically goes from Gabrielle to the nickname Gab to the nickname Fab. And it was something that started in high school, and then it was kind of like a joke, and then I ended up using it on social media, and it seemed like a good name for this channel. And even though it's corny, I hope that my hike is in fact fab. Otherwise, I created this channel so I could have something to look back on my experience. I hope it's great. I hope that even though I expect there will be ups and downs, that this is really something unique in my life and that I'll be happy to have a record of my hike. I also wanted something to share with friends and family at home. There are people that think this is insane. There are people that are more like just worried about me. And of course I have friends and family that think this is awesome as well. But I just wanted to have something to share with them so they could follow along. And eventually I decided to post this publicly because I've watched so many of these videos and followed so many hikers. And it was really helpful for me in terms of making the decision to finally hike, knowing what to bring, knowing a little bit more what to expect. Now, granted, I'm not out there yet, so you might hear from me in 2 weeks saying that I was all wrong. But I want to share this in case it is helpful for anyone else. And so I'll be hopefully posting a video every week, every couple days or so while I'm out there. And that's it. So next time you hear from me, it will probably be to go over the gear that I'm taking with me. And after that, I will be on trail. So thanks so much.